I do find the idea, I do find it funny or weird or whatever that, Nick, they call you a white supremacist. You're here working with or for, one of the most powerful black men, one of the wealthiest and most famous.
You see what, just happened there? That's him downplaying, sanitizing, as Tim Poole always does to either alt-writers, extremists, far-writers. He's had Jack Pacevic, John Doyle on his show, rotates all these white supremacists. That's him downplaying how bad Nick Fuentes actually is.
Yeah, I mean, the Jewish people allowed Obama to meet with the minister,
Like that, holy It's like this, it's wild to me that this is up on YouTube, that they made a whole bunch of money from this. This is full-blown conspiracy theories.
Is there a disproportionate number of people with Jewish last names in higher banking? That's an argument that can be made.
No, it's not. Now, this saga has blown up into proportions I did not see coming. I never thought. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. 2022 is a weird year. It's just like a lot of weird things, Like a couple of years ago, I would say 2018, 2019 was a scary year just because the pandemic, and then when it started, everyone was losing their minds and all that kind of stuff. 2022, weird year. Just a lot of weird things. Things you're just wait, what? Oh, okay. So Ye is now friends with Milo Yiannopoulos. Wait, he's back? He's famous again? And Nick Fuentes, the neo-Nazi. Not Nick Fuentes, they like saying, well, he's a white nationalist, or he's an extremist, or he's a Christian nationalist. No, he's a neo-Nazi. He's a Holocaust-denying neo-Nazi. That's what Nick Fuentes is. So is his entire movement. That's their goals, aims, and aspirations. They want a dictatorship to take over so they can implement their MGTOW racist-ass policies and basically control women, eliminate LGBTQ people from existing, eliminate Jews and black people from existing, get rid of most minorities, the whole Aryan race project. That's the goals and aspirations. So Nick Fuentes can come out and go on TV and say to all his fans, hey, it's a little weird that I'm going to be working with a black guy. I understand, but we have to think bigger. There's a bigger project at hand. And lo and behold, the fucked up thing about this story is the real big winner is Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is now over 100,000 top trending on Twitter style famous. He's on Jimmy Kimmel. That's what's happening. Little neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes has made it into prime time, in large part due to the strategy both him and Milo are employing of using the fucking outrageously racist anti-Semitism of Ye to propel them into new levels of stardom. What do you think is going to happen in a couple years when Nick Fuentes has a monstrously huge platform and wants to start doing the same shit that he was doing before January 6th? Nick Fuentes was one of the motherfuckers out there with a megaphone blasting to everyone, telling them to fucking take over the country. He's said out loud multiple times that the majority of Americans don't believe what he believes, and he gets that. He's like, they are not anti-abortion. They are not anti-gay. They are not anti-LGBTQ+. And so we need to force them to be. They are not for the oppression of women, but we need to force them to be that. That's Nick Fuentes. So Nick Fuentes now, thanks to Tim Poole and YouTube, fucking making absolute bank. We can't mince words on this one. Fucking making a huge amount of money by promoting this hardcore anti-Semitism. And also, no excuses for Ye. I know a lot of people, especially on the left, kind of tiptoe around the subject because obviously black people in America are heavily marginalized, and there's a very small amount of very rich and powerful black people. Those things can be true, and also the shit that Ye is saying is hardcore anti-Semitism. You can see how much Nick Fuentes and Milo have fucking influenced his line of thought. He went from having very anti-Semitic conspiracy theories to having refined anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, to the point now he sounds like Nick Fuentes, the neo-Nazi. That's what's going on here. So the fact that Tim Poole, first, A, thought this was a good idea, B, it's just for the memes kind of shit, C, oh, we're gonna make so much money, and he was right. He was right. I mean, that was a fucking hell of a lot of viewers. 100,000 people, close to around its peak. That's That's the shit that TV networks get. And that was what Tim Poole was getting, having Ye, Nick Fuentes, and Milo go on like a 17-minute hardcore anti-Semitic fucking segment. It's like, it's anti-Semitism, the likes of which I have not seen outside of avowed neo-Nazi like YouTube channels that get nuked. Like that's the only other place where I've heard shit like that to that degree and that extremity. Just like conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, and then flipping the whole thing and being like, we can't talk about this because of extreme cancel culture and all this shit. Dropping actual like full on neo-Nazi lines like the what is it, cut by 1,000 stabs kind of shit. The stuff that like the alt-right online would sometimes tiptoe around, and now Ye is just straight up like saying that out loud. It's a fuck segment. We're gonna watch it. I think it's important to watch it, to be able to disseminate it, to be able to pick apart all the hardcore racism that's going on here, and like to the glee of fucking two extremists like Nick Fuentes, the neo-Nazi. This was such a good thing for him, and he didn't have to do anything. He barely speaks. During the whole 17 minutes, he's there with this fucking shit-ass smile the whole time. Yeah. Well, let me tell you about they, thems. But he barely just starts popping off near the end. Like, near the end, he's you can see he's got a whole thing ready, and he was about to unload that entire, like, let's look at the facts here, okay? Did you know that all these Hollywood studios are run by Jews? Things like that. You could see that he was about to pop off on that. He didn't get the opportunity because Ye just, like, walks off the set in the middle of it. But holy shit, unbelievable. Very quick background before we drop right into the fray. Fox News' near total silence on former President Donald Trump's meeting with Nick Fuentes and the rapper Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, points to the inroads that white nationalism and virulent anti-Semitism have made onto the network, and the difficulty the Republican Party would have in trying to remove the faction from its coalition. The news that Fuentes and Ye had dined with Trump at his Mar-a-Lago home and resort last Tuesday triggered a stream of denunciations from civil rights groups and calls for Republicans to speak out. Yeah, no shit. This is the former president of the United States meeting with a neo-Nazi, and according to sources in the room, was very impressed with him. Very impressed with that Nick Fuentes. And after the fact, did not condemn him. After it was revealed who he was, he did the same thing he always does. He's like, I did not know that individual. And it's like, okay, if you met with David Duke, and then afterwards, everyone was like, that's the KKK guy that you're meeting with. This is the extreme. This is not like, oh, they have some pretty, spicy takes. It's like, no, that's a neo-Nazi. You're having dinner with a very popular online neo-Nazi. Can you call that out? Can you at least say, I condemn the neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes? I did not know who he was beforehand because I was ambushed by Ye, but here we are. This is what's going on, right? Fuentes, meanwhile, is a white supremacist leader who attended the deadly 2017 Unite the Right white supremacist rally in Charlottesville, called for a white uprising to install Trump as a dictator, and has generated a lengthy list of bigoted statements, including his recent exhortation for Jews to get the fuck out of America. Republican leaders are divided over whether bigots like Ye and Fuentes should be shunned and the former president condemned for meeting with them. Ultimately, this argument is a proxy fight over the question of whether white supremacists, Proud Boys, anti-Semites, and other deplorables who made common cause with Trump should have ushered out of the party. Some, like Vice President Mike Pence, have spoken out. Others criticize Fuentes while letting Trump off the hook, like potential House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and remain silent like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Fox's propagandists have joined the side of the silent. The network devoted to a mere 7 minutes to the dinner from the time the story broke on Friday through the weekend and ignored it altogether on Monday. Like, this is massive news. It's so weird how, like, the online world has now overlapped with the political arena in this way. Like, that's why I'm sure Tim Poole's like, oh, hell yeah, this is going to be amazing. We're going to make history. Like, that is exactly what they did last night. They made history. There's no question. They have now been part of the story in which they propagated, promoted, and now exploded in popularity a neo-Nazi. Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, again, hundreds of thousands of tweets online. Fucking, he's been the butt end of jokes in Jimmy Kimmel. Like, he's on fucking late night comedy shows. That's fucking what the normies watch. That's how far Nick Fuentes has come. He's going to become a household name. And they profited off this. Fox personalities condemning Trump for meeting with Ye would amount to a hairpin turn for the network. They were touting Ye's bravery just weeks ago after Ye talked to Trump in Carlson's fawning interview with him, but as they lavished praise on the rapper, the network was keeping under wraps some of the anti-Jewish comments West made in the same direction. When Ye started making similarly anti-Semitic remarks on social media, some at Fox criticized him, though not Carlson, who pretended to be an outburst, hadn't happened, and continued to laud him. All right, everybody. I guess I need to add a content warning. Disclaimer. I have already watched this So this has been pre-watched because I could not turn away last night. It's just such a wild moment. And by the way, Tim Poole doesn't get like the benefit of the doubt. Like, you don't get to say, oh, he didn't know any better. He was told by his own fucking circles. A lot of right-wingers were telling him, what are you doing? Because some of them can see the writing on the wall. It's like, if we directly start associating with neo-Nazis, that tarnishes all of us. Like, you know how the libs keep calling us neo-Nazis and fascists? If we hang out with and promote and normalize neo-Nazis and fascists, that's what they're gonna be right. We're gonna prove them right. So don't do that, Tim. You know, I mean, they didn't say it in so many words, but that's like the writing on the wall. And he says it multiple times. He's like, yeah, multiple people didn't want me to do this. And it's like, well, yeah.
That's resulted in a continued news cycle, which is now going on for over a week, which is in many ways unheard of. But right now, because Donald Trump went to dinner with Ye and Nick Fuentes, among others, he is now being denounced by Mike Pence, several Republican senators, and...
No shit, it's a neo-Nazi. Like, the infuriating thing about this entire saga, there's this thing on the right where they always try to like downplay leftists' outrage and be like, oh, you just call everything you want fucking a Nazi, everything you hate is a Nazi, everything you don't like is fascist. That's all you're always doing that. You know, like I condemn racism. Okay, I condemn all forms of white supremacy. I condemn the Ku Klux Klan. I condemn segregation. You know, apartheid. I'm against those things unless it's happening in Israel and Palestine. But anyways, I proudly condemn that. And it's like, your version of racism is basically a white guy walking up to a black guy and calling them the N-word. And then you're like, okay, that's a racism. I've seen it. I've seen the racism right there. It happened. A real one. This is that. This is a neo-Nazi. Like, fucking Nick Fuentes is very open about his fucking beliefs. He says this shit out loud. Like, it's gotten to a point where do they need to have swastikas carved into their foreheads before you'll be like, okay, that's racist. Oh, gotcha. So I probably shouldn't make that famous for money. Probably shouldn't. Okay, yeah, no, I see it. It's very large. Yeah.
And, for whatever reason, this story, for many reasons, I suppose people have made, this story has persisted till today. And we are able to actually sit down with several of the individuals involved in that story, notably Ye, Nick Fuentes, and Milo Yiannopoulos, of course, who made the dinner happen. It's my understanding, or at least got the.
I had the dinner invite before I met Milo.
Okay, my bad. There you go. So we're gonna jump right into this story.
I just overcomplicated it.
Absolutely. So we're gonna start with that. And there's a lot we want to talk about, and
I'm not gonna lie, this was surreal.
You know what, man?
Like,
this is a very big story.
Milo
a lot of people have questions about,
whatever.
You know, what were Trump's intentions? Why were certain people invited? And Trump, of course, has issued statements. So a lot of people want to know where.
Oh, by the way, I periodically have to go back and forth between showing you the chat because, like, holy shit, at certain points,
what
maybe I
there
won't be able to,
and why?
because of some of the.
And there's also the questions about what Ye 24 means, and I'll keep that a little bit vague so that they can answer to that and speak more.
Wait, why isn't the chat replay in real time?
To that, and then of course we're going to get into a lot of different issues. However, head over to timcast.com and become a member. We're going to have a members-only uncensored show, which will probably get a bit more in-depth on a lot of other issues.
Uncensored.
That I'll just leave it at that. Timcast.com, become a member, support our work, and we'll talk about more there. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us.
So as of right now, which is a day later, it has not appeared. Now, some people online were telling me that they recorded it beforehand, and I was like, interesting. That would be the first time they've done that, but sure, that's a possibility. I guess they forgot to upload the uncensored extra edition in Timcast's members-only section. Could be appearing. And also, I should point out, yet another Christian nationalist right here, John Doyle. Tim Poole's had a rotating white supremacist guest line over the last little while. It's just been like, oh, another white supremacist. Oh, yeah, that's a white supremacist. That's another white supremacist. Oh, that guy's just a straight up neo-Nazi. Now you've gone all the way to just having open, proud neo-Nazis on the show.
As I mentioned, we have Ye himself. Would you like to introduce yourself, good sir?
You did it.
There you go. I think everybody knows who you are. And which of you gentlemen would like to introduce yourself?
Nicholas, please.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Nick Fuentes.
And then as soon as I heard that sound, I was like, hi, I'm Nick Fuentes. I love eating my own snot.
First time here on the Timcast. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you do?
It was like at that moment, the whole thing just suddenly, like, it just clicked. It was real. I was just like, holy fuck, this moment is actually happening. That's neo-Nazi, booger-eating, fucking cum-searching Nick Fuentes. Yeah, if you didn't know, he's fucking obsessed with finding out if his fucking roommates are coming or not. He's very no-fap, so he walks around with a black light, fucking their bedrooms looking for cum. He's the cum hunter. That's what I'm going to call Nick Fuentes from now on, the cum hunter.
Oh, I'm a live streamer. I do a show called America First on cozy.tv.
All right. And of course, Milo, you were here a couple weeks ago.
Yes, I'm your best ever guest.
So we've been told that the episode with you was one of the best podcasts ever. People really enjoyed hearing you speak.
I think that's accurate.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
thanks for coming back.
Thanks. I was wondering how I was going.
Chats, what's the over-under on how long before Milo becomes gay again? Because I think he's getting reintroduced into the inner circle. His stocks, they're soaring to the moon right now. The person who was effectively canceled, not by the libs or the left, by the right. 'Twas the right that canceled Milo. And like, yeah, the right barely tolerates gay people as it is. If you've got a gay person defending pedophilia, all of a sudden it's like, okay, you're gone. You're out. You're persona non grata. And then he was like, okay, well, I can't really do anything else. It's going to be very hard to get a job. You know, the resume, Milo Yiannopoulos, oh, you're that alt-right guy. Okay, so I guess I have to toss off the sodomy stone into the ocean. Like, that was the segment he did. He called it the sodomy stone, and he threw it into, maybe, I'm sure it probably was just like a fake one for the day, but he throws it into the ocean, and it's like, yes, I'm no longer gay. That's all it takes. All you gotta do is take off the gay sodomy stone, and you're saved.
To make it even more extraordinary the second time I visited.
Clean up your room.
Viditat, thank you for the prime.
Luke's here.
Total sausage fest tonight. Welcome. My name is Luke Radowski of wearechange.org. Today I'm wearing my Didn't Epstein himself t-shirt, which you could get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And I think we should be using that word a little bit more, just like, you know, this YouTube channel didn't Epstein itself.
Yeah, true.
And if this YouTube channel is Epstein, we will be streaming on Twitter. So yeah, I started a t-shirt company after YouTube.
Actually, like, so first-hand account of like right-wing Jewish family members who are like, we are completely done with Trump because of this. It's good to know. That's like, at least there's some outcome of people like waking up from this.
Monetized me, so thebestpoliticalshirts.com, because you guys buy it. That's why I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
And of course, Serge.
And I am Serge.com. Pleasure, guys.
All right. And I'll just pull up this story from The Hill, which is from earlier today, 5 p.m. Pence says Trump should apologize. It's wrong to give anti-Semite a seat at the table. This, of course...
Fucking Pence is calling you out. How bad have things gone? Fucking hardcore homophobe Mike Pence, you know? If he's calling you out, like, oh yeah, this is a neo-Nazi again.
Of course, is related to a dinner that happened, and I was wrong a little on the details. So, a dinner happened. Nick, you were there. Ye, you were there. I just want to start off by, how did this dinner come to happen, and what happened?
Okay, so a couple things. I want to point out, Tim Poole is noticeably nervous during this entire segment, and or the stakes are quite high, and he knows. He's like, he's sitting in the presence of Ye right now after everything that's been going on, the eyes of the world kind of watching the story. This is intersecting with the president of the United States, shit like that, fucking neo-Nazis, the rise of fascism, all this kind of stuff. So the stakes are quite high, and he knows this, and he is so like, in many ways, generous to Ye and the things that Ye is saying. Like, Ye is spouting fucking anti-Semitic shit that you don't see on YouTube outside of like neo-Nazis channels, the ones that get toasted and roasted all the time, because it's like, oh, yet another Holocaust Denying video got uploaded, and it's like, boom, gone. That kind of shit. The shit where it's like a corporation, even the size of YouTube, and even like how YouTube lets a lot of shit pass, let a lot of anti-Semitic stuff pass, let a lot of transphobic stuff pass, let a lot of racist stuff pass. Look at Steven Crowder, look at him, look at Matt Walsh. Like, these are people saying extremist shit, right? That's usually the limit of the tolerance, and he doesn't push back on a lot of it. Like, there's a couple times where he's like, well, okay, well, but that's about the extent of it, until the very end of this whole, like, you know, when Ye walks off, because at that point it's finally like, he's like, yeah, but who is they, them? Like, straight up doing the, like, you know, the triple brackets, fucking alt-right coded stuff, and he's like, oh, I don't think of they, them in the same way you do, you know. And then, like, that apparently was the pushback that turned him into a hero.
I was talking to Trump for about a month. We had scheduled the dinner in October, and then he announced for president. He pushed the dinner back to November, and I've been pulling together a campaign.
This is the most cursed
and after
blood
I
rotation,
put up
by the way.
The DEF CON tweet a bunch of people that have been canceled, like Alex Jones. I started getting in contact with other people that were now on the, the inside of the matrix.
So big reveal there, by the way. Alex Jones, one of the people behind a lot of this. I would not have immediately guessed that he was one of the puppet masters trying to throw all the neo-Nazis together and organize this whole thing and get them directly into, the president's dinner table. But yeah.
And Alex Jones, producer, said that Milo
Dr. Osmium Lincoln.
Me. And here we are.
So that's how you guys got in contact.
Yeah, originally, and then I suggested that we bring in Nicholas as a enormous extra brain firepower that he is. He's most extraordinarily brilliant political commentator of his generation, and he's been treated just about as badly as anybody. So I thought he deserved to be in the room too, and yeah, that's pretty much how we.
Mitch McConnell says Trump is highly unlikely to win the presidential election due to Ye and Fuentes dinner. I mean, this could be a pretty significant outcome if it leads to this. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell suggested that Donald Trump is highly unlikely to regain the presidency as a result of his recent dinner with the rapper known as Ye and the white supremacist Nick Fuentes. Trump has been strongly condemned for dining with both men who have espoused anti-Semitic beliefs at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach. There's no room for the Republican Party for anti-Semitism or white supremacy. It's that bad that it could have an effect. It could have an effect to the point, you might even see Trump eventually come out and condemn Nick Fuentes.
So I have some questions about that, but we'll get through the dinner portion of, how exactly this happened, what went down. So this is how you get in contact, the three of you. How is it that Nick ends up invited to this dinner, and what happened?
Well, he was rolling with me. I was impressed with Nick, and I was like, just come to the dinner. And we had Karen Giorno pick us up from the airport. And there was a lot of back and forth. There's another gentleman named Jamar Montgomery that was with us. He's an engineer at Boeing, and who's it?
I'm telling him we should raise everyone's volume.
Okay, cool. And we sat there, and it was like when Trump came in, I said, do you want to sit alone? He's like, no, bring your friends in. So a big thing is Trump had no idea who Nick Fuentes was.
So, if that was an intentional hit piece, no, because I don't think Ye thinks Nick Fuentes is bad. Otherwise, he wouldn't associate with him at all. But either way, as an outcome where they ambush Trump with Nick Fuentes, I mean, it might be the only positive to come out of the story.
But this whole, I just got to go right to the heart.
Okay, this is even the 5-minute mark. Because there's some minutes, how long? Oh, okay, it's not that bad. Okay, so it is kind of the 5-minute mark. All right, so it's about the 5-minute mark where Ye, without any provocation, because at no point has anyone said at this point, can we please talk about the Jews? No one said that. Without any provocation, it's just here we go.
Of this anti-Semite claim that's happening. This is something, if you read the definition, it says you can't claim that there's multiple people inside of banks or in media that are all Jewish or you're anti-Semitic. And that's the truth. Yes. It's the truth. What are we talking about? And
elaborate. What do you mean? You mean?
I'm saying I've been labeled anti-Semite, right? So there's different beliefs about our bloodlines, the documentary that Kyrie posted. And in general, America has been left ignorant and history has been changed. So when we start questioning things that question the indoctrination, then you immediately get, you said.
So just so everyone knows, not one of the major television news operations, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, ABC News, CBS News, NBC News, is currently headed by a Jewish executive. For the people in the back, not one of any major television news operation. Elements of the film industry do have I would say, a disproportionate amount of Jewish people relative to the amount of Jewish people who are in the American population. That is true, but there is historical precedent for that. And also, who gives a fuck? It's not an indication of anything. There's a lot of Irish people who are in charge and are the CEOs of banks. A lot of Irish people. Do I think there's an Irish conspiracy theory? Do I think Irish people control the world? Do I think that there's a secret cabal of Irish people who meet once a year in order to determine how we should all live our lives? Do I think Irish people meet with the presidents? Oh my God, the current president of the United States right now, Joe Biden, is Irish. Obama was part Irish. What is going on? There's a lot of Irish people in the police departments. What is going on? Do Irish people control the world? We have to ask the Irish question. No. Do you see how absurd that all sounds? It's like there's a historical reason for a handful of those things, and just the fact that the president happens to be Irish doesn't mean that there's an Irish conspiracy theory, that there are Irish people meeting to control the rest of the population. It's absurd. You can see how silly it sounds when I put it that way. But now it's like, if I just substitute Irish for Jewish, all of a sudden it's like, well, we have to notice these patterns. They're real, right?
Debanked, or what did you say happened to you, or...
Demonetized, deplatformed.
Demonized, demonetized. And what's so beautiful about this time is everyone got to see what's really been happening. And now we can really understand. We can see that Ron Emanuel was right next to Obama, and then Jared Kushner was right next to Trump.
Like, that is next level. You've now gone from, Jewish people control the media, Jewish people control the banks, to Jewish people also directly have the ears of the presidents of the United States and influence them, as proof by these two examples I have here. I think what explains Jared Kushner a lot more than anything, including Jewish conspiracy theories, is, son-in-law of the president of the United States. Probably it's like, it's nepotism. That's what it is. It's nepotism. What you're doing is anti-Semitism. That's the difference between those two things.
But
so you,
he even does a sound effect as if it's like, you didn't know this, but hey, Jewish people control the presidents of the United States. Dun dun dun. Like, what the fuck?
we're getting right into it, I guess, right? I was hoping to go for the news first before we got into all.
So that's Tim Poole's response to like, that's super racist what you just said. And it's like, oh, all right, so here's where we're going, eh? All right, giddy up. I guess I bought the ticket. I mean, y'all are here, so let's see what happens.
I think the issue is one way to put it is you're expounding upon a localization issue that you've witnessed, right? Let me clarify. There are a handful of people that you see are Jewish in a certain place, and then you associate Judaism with the power, whereas I view that as not relevant to it. Like, yeah, you're substantially more powerful.
How incredible. Like, Tim Poole needs a neo-Nazi like Nick Fuentes and an anti-Semite like Ye to be able to sound, I don't know, correct? That's correct.
Than I am, but I don't view what you're doing as an issue of black people.
Yeah, but have you ever heard the term the black vote? So it's okay to put us in one net, but it's not okay for me to put them in one net.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's the basis of the hypocrisy that people have been thinking about and knowing about and realizing for decades. We were all wondering how this dam was going to break. Everybody in the country was wondering, what is the root of this hypocrisy? Why can people talk about white people a certain way? Why can't they talk about that group a certain way? And the wretched and wicked and oppressive prevailing orthodoxy of cancel culture, well, it turned out that the one thing that was going to break the dam was the biggest star in the world, and it took the biggest star in the world to do it.
Just I like that Tim Poole's response to this, by the way, is it's like, the train has left the station. Yeah, giddy up. What did you think was going to happen, Tim? Did you think they were going to sit there and be like, we want to talk about the issues you want to talk about. We want to have a back and forth conversation. Or did you think they were going to be like, well, we have a massive platform right now. Why don't we start telling everyone about the Jewish question? And hey, we can say that it's the strongest form of cancel culture if you're not allowed to talk about it. I mean, that's just cancel culture run amok, right? And we know that you right-wingers, you Republicans, not all of you are neo-Nazis, not all of you are alt-right, not all of you are neo-reactionaries, but we know a handful of you do wonder and think about those things. Why is it's okay to criticize white people, but it's not okay to criticize Jewish people? Why aren't we allowed to do this? I have to imagine at this point there's a certain alarm going off in Tim's brain. I would hope if there's any humanity left in that beanie, then
and now the dam is broken.
So let me tell you my issue. I don't like identitarianism. You guys are familiar with what that is?
Well, they started it, and they've been visiting
Sure,
on us. We're trying to break it.
Sure. Sure, I agree with what you just said. That makes sense. By the way, Tim Poole's referring to identity politics. Part of his whole philosophy, he said out loud a lot of times, Tim Poole distinctly doesn't believe in meritocracy. Or sorry, he believes strongly in meritocracy. He believes that individuals should be promoted based on their merit, not based on, the color of their skin and stuff like that. And there's obviously a huge problem, with affirmative action and things like this, where we are just rewarding people for being minorities and things like that, right? Like that's a big part of Tim Poole's philosophy. That's what he's talking about here. It's so fucking weird to have Milo sit there and be like, they did this to us. We've been wronged, we've been oppressed for our race, us white people, and now we need to call them out. We need to call out Jewish people. We need to call out black people. We need to call out indigenous people. We need to call them all out because this ends. No more. The dam has been broken. Sure.
I was asking you about running for president. You immediately said, well, you'd be good for the black vote. And I said, is that because I'm black? No, not just because of that. So is that. Are you doing the same thing?
I didn't say that was the only reason. I said it was because you're personable to the common person, and you probably...
So this is some lore. This shit happened before this all went down. And like when things went sour, apparently Ye, Milo, Fuentes, they left the compound real quick. They were just like, got the fuck out of there. And behind the scenes, Will Somer was reporting that apparently Tim Poole was doing, calling them woke BS. And so like you're calling the dude who spent 17 minutes doing fucking some of the most hardcore anti-Semitism that you hear out of neo-Nazi websites. And you're like, well, that was woke. Fucking woke BS.
He would do well with the black vote, absolutely.
Just because I'm black, because a lot of black people don't like me.
Of course, I think race plays a role in a lot of things, absolutely, and I think that
that is a super weird thing to say. By the way, if like you have a black person who's talking to you, and in the middle of that they're like, "I want to run for president," and then you say, "You'd be really good for black vote." I think that's what you'd be good at. It's like. Any other reason you might think is just because of fucking an inalienable characteristic that I don't have control over? That maybe my policies, talent, anything.
I think the construct of race has really been forced upon us as just something for us to be woke about and just constantly talk about and use it as these like walls.
Could you say the same thing about?
Okay, so that's kind of like a criticism, I think, of liberal identity politics. And like, not an unfair one, okay? There's definitely a huge problem with just performative identity politics where people are like, yes, Kamala Harris is the vice president of the United States, which means there is now multiple forms of intersectional representation. We've done it. Racism is slightly over. It ended under Obama, and now it's going to end once again without looking at like, well, how is the median wealth for black people in America growing right now? What exactly is that trajectory going in? Oh, it's going in a downward trajectory, and there seems to be an enormous disproportionate amount of the median wealth for white people versus black people. Why is that? Why are these systems perpetuating? That's the difference. Whereas one is like, hey, the head of the CIA happens to be a Latinx person, and so because we have a person of color ahead of that is, we've done it. This is progress. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying representation itself is bad. If you have representation in film, if you have representation, like obviously not for terrible things, like representation in arms manufacturing isn't like we fucking did it. We did it. Oh, we fucking smashed the glass ceiling there. But it doesn't actually change the material conditions of people. That's what's important.
Well, let's look at the facts of what I'm saying, though. If you say in this neighborhood where they gerrymander, there's this amount of time. So, hey, I wasn't doing that. I was just gerrymandering the lawyers and the Hollywood executives and the people at the bank that debanked me and then froze my accounts. It's like we want to jump in.
Like, holy fuck. Anything, Tim? You gonna say a thing? Like, this fucking turning the anti-Semitism up to 11 right now. Like, goddamn.
To protecting the idea that we can't put a net around something, right? But that's been my job as a producer, to take, a Roy Ayers sample and put a James Brown drum and put it within a 2-minute, 3-minute
okay,
song.
Well, that justifies
that's the way
then.
I actually think.
Now I understand. Okay.
And that's the way I talk.
Thank you for thank you for teaching me the anti-Semitic process. It's good to know. This is basically the road you went down to get here. Interesting.
Morning, I found out that they were trying to put me in prison because what they did was.
By the way, he keeps saying they. And he is saying they in triple parentheses. Like, that's what's happening right now. Sorry, brackets.
I moved $140 million into JP Morgan. And I said, I want to talk to Jamie Dimon. Like, look at me. I'm just going in naive, multi-billionaire. Like, maybe Jamie Dimon will let me in on some deal flow. Wrong. And I'm just like banging my hands like, I want to meet with Jamie. And I start complaining online. And then they debank me for complaining. And so I'm about to get debanked. They're like, you need to go to Trump's, the bank, AXO, whatever, you got to go. And I'm like, I've been trying to buy my own bank for the longest. And then we figured out how to get my own bank. It's like 50 million, 75 million. So I'm about to buy my own bank. But then as they're about to take the money out, here comes Adidas with a $275 million bill for marketing funds that they agreed upon. Because I said to them, hey, I'm the marketing, give me the marketing fund, which proves by the response they got when they stole the designs and said, we're going to not call them Yeezys anymore. So this is what I was already fighting Adidas for. So
By the way, don't forget the background story that's coming out right now about how terrible Ye was as a boss, fucking like doing weird ass shit, telling like female employees that he wants them to design a shoe he can fuck, forcing them to watch porn all the time, like both his porn and other porn, like weird ass shit like that.
Fighting Gap, get out of Gap, fighting Adidas. And then I deal with this little bit of noise from
makes dizzy. It's in Rolling Stone.
Zionism from the fashion world, where they use this plant named Gabby, who's obviously like some kind of CIA agent, knows nothing about fashion. This is a certain thing. When someone can't dress, you know that they're not like a fashion person. They're just there as like the society, like the control that they try to use with celebrities, which has now been broken, right? Because where it broke. Okay. I want to get on like LeBron in a second, but I'm going to come back to this and just talk about this morning where, I'm not going to mention her name because she's a nice lady, but someone at Cohen Resnick tells me, and I tell all of my finance people, never use the term a lot, but they said, okay, you're going to have to pay a lot of taxes. And that made me feel like they're just like waiting, like we finally got them. We finally can put him in jail. And I was like, can I still run for president in jail? I found out I could. So I was like, okay, that's fine then. It'll be okay.
But if you were Jeffrey Epstein, they wouldn't touch your bank account. They would allow you to break the...
You are so obsessed with Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein.
The rules, regulations, just like JP Morgan and Chase did, just like Deutsche Bank did. So there is an issue to bring up with that. But when it comes to the race stuff, I think this is an important discussion to have because I
have to complete this thought. You guys got to.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, because I'm talking about literally finding out that they were trying to put me in prison this morning. Watch this. So
This morning.
Yes. So not come to my house this morning, but I found out, okay, so they put a $75 million hold on 4 of my accounts. And then they said, you owe a lot of taxes. Took me like 6 hours to find out how much a lot was. They said, well, around $50 million. Now I'm going to different CFOs like, okay, so would this be tax evasion? Because I'm obviously not the most financially literate person on the planet. I was just a child, basically. Like when you become famous, you stop growing at that point. I became famous at age 24 and I had handlers around. I had my mom around, different things. And it was always like you go from one handler to the next handler to the next handler. So now I get to actually learn how to run a company. I get to learn how to count. Really, I was like Pablo in a movie. It was like I didn't even know where to put the money, like literally making three.
I'll be honest, like obviously you're a little more immature at 24 than you might be at 34, saying that as someone who's been through both periods. But, I didn't think that I was a child at 24 years old. That's for sure.
$100 million cash, but you're just like a high-priced, we're not going to use the S word just because it's just like too passe to use it. But it's like next year I was supposed to make $500 million in royalties. And like, no one needs this amount of money. But when I would work on homeless shelters and ideas, I'd have a contractor, we won't say what race, and
By the way, you are just saying what race every time you do that. I know that's been like a yay thing for a while. It's just like, I'm just not going to say what race I'm talking about, but you know, yeah.
They'd be tearing down the contracts. It's all about, position. It's not about the amount of money that you have. And, to come in here, I feel like it's a setup to be like defending. I'm not going to go through another, like I'm literally going to walk the F off the show if I'm sitting up here having to, talk about, you can't say that it was Jewish people that did it
So this is where the turn starts. This is basically where, like, Ye starts, I would say, announcing that he's going to walk off the set in one way or another. And what's weird is that, like, he's had barely any pushback. Like, Tim Poole has once said, well, I don't like identitarianism, and I don't think that that just because there may be Jewish people in a certain field, it means that it's controlled by Jewish people, like, something like that. That's the extent of it, and he's basically agreed to most of the rest of this. And now, like,
every sensible person knows that. I mean, Jon Stewart knows what happened to me, and they took it too far. It was like American History X. Like, my head was on the side of the curve, and the exact people that I called out kicked my head. We found out that my trainer was a MK Ultra Canadian intelligence.
He worked in the defense research.
So you can see where the conspiracy theory in his own mind is going, by the way, as in, like, because he had a trainer who was Jewish, because he has, a financial advisor who was Jewish. He has this idea that there is a Jewish conspiracy, both in the control of the world, but also in the fact that he's starting to lose everything because of his anti-Semitism. Your anti-Semitism is the reason why major corporations and brands don't want anything to do with you. It's like you have a long history of this. I mean, your racism towards black people was apparently tolerable by corporations. They were okay with that. But once you started going full anti-Semitic, like, yeah, a lot of brands were like, we no longer want to be associated with you. It's more damaging to our brand to have Ye involved in this than it is prior to that happening.
And development in the Canadian military, essentially working on psyops in the Canadian military. This is Harley Pasternak.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, look, they tried to medicate me. I was exhausted. They wrongly diagnosed me, and they when I asked them how much,
again, he's referring to Jewish people. He's still, when he keeps saying, like, they wrongly diagnosed me, like, my Jewish doctor, my Jewish accountant, my Jewish trainer, all of them were just conspiring together because, again, Jewish people control everything.
Lithium did you want to put me on exactly? It took them 4 days to answer because they were embarrassed about the amount, right? And I refused to take this, right? You understand that if I had taken the medication, I would not be here, and it would have been, he was deeply troubled. We miss him. We love his
So there's where we get the, like, they were trying to assassinate me.
music, though.
Well, they would have Britney Spears too. I mean, look.
They would have Michael Jackson
or worse, yeah.
So look at what they did.
Look at what they did to Britney.
And this is like, oh man, Milo was so happy. Milo and Nick Fuentes, this is the greatest thing that ever happened to them. One of the most prolific artists, one of the most, again, powerful and rich black people in America, and we're getting to now put all of our mainstream super racist shit out there and use this as a catapult for both of our careers. Like, Milo, again, as of a year ago, was going on fucking F-tier YouTube streams or fucking Christian streams to sell fucking dick pills and stuff because he had done this whole, like, I am no longer gay, I cast away my sodomy stone, all of this, to now fucking this shit is on, like, late night television.
When she went in, she was tired, she was exhausted, she was in a bad way. But 10 years of that medication wrecked her brain. You can see it now. You can see there's not much of her left.
You mentioned Pasternak was the name?
Yes, Harley Pasternak. That's the text message that you posted that we were talking about before.
That's the lobotomy threat.
Yeah.
Before the show, obviously, I'm getting a bunch of messages from people. People are hitting me up, and they're like, you shouldn't host them. They're anti-Semitic. They're white supremacists.
Okay. I'm going to pause here and I'm going to rewind this. This is a very important moment. For anyone online who has been defending Tim Poole in this because of the viral clips going around of Tim Poole, obviously at the very end, not agreeing to the Jewish question, which I don't know, should kind of be just the bare fucking minimum. It's kind of like one of those, like, yeah, human decency. You have met the bare fucking minimum. Amazing. But this part here is very dangerous because this is what Tim was intending to do with this broadcast. You can hear the way he frames this almost immediately.
Yes, Harley Pasternak. That's the text message that Ye posted that we were talking about before.
That's the lobotomy thread.
You know?
Yeah.
Before the show, obviously, I'm getting a bunch of messages from people. People are hitting me up, and they're like, "You shouldn't host them. They're anti-Semitic. They're white supremacists. They're racist." I do find the idea. I do find it funny or weird, or whatever, that Nick, they call you a white supremacist. You're here working with or for one of the most powerful black men, one of the wealthiest and most famous.
You see what just happened there? That's him downplaying, sanitizing, as Tim Poole always fucking does to either alt-writers, extremist far writers. He's had Jack Pacevic, John Doyle on his show, fucking rotates all these white supremacists. That's him downplaying how bad Nick Fuentes actually is, how bad the rhetoric of Nick Fuentes is. It's funny, that people call him a white supremacist, but yet he's working for one of the most powerful black men in the country. A white supremacist wouldn't do that. It doesn't make logical sense. He certainly wouldn't use someone, even someone he despises because of their race, in order to become more famous or rich or powerful. Why would a white supremacist do that? So it's funny. That's funny. It's funny. And this is fucking dangerous. This is a neo-Nazi. Tim Poole's doing what he does, where he tries to downplay and sanitize their shit. So then when people see this, they're like, oh, yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that. Yeah, no, a neo-Nazi wouldn't work for a black guy in America. What's going on here? Come on, no, this is silly.
A lot of people were saying on the right specifically, don't platform them. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I want to understand what they're thinking and why they're thinking it. They're involved in what may be the biggest news story of the past week, and we have an opportunity to sit down and talk.
Because
with them.
the red media controls both sides. It just said it as simple as possible.
And Nick is obviously fleecing Ye. Oh yeah, 100%. Nick Fuentes had a broadcast where he explained to his own audience. He's like, hey, by the way, this might be a little strange, a little weird. I'm going to be working with a black person, but think of the bigger picture. Okay, we are losing elections. The extremist wing of the far right is apparently not as popular. Things like abortion, people aren't on the same side of these issues. Things like LGBTQ plus persecution. Seems like the average American doesn't want to eliminate trans people from existing. That's not part of their project. It is my project. So we have to think bigger in order to achieve our goals.
Jared Kushner was next to Trump. Rahm Emanuel was next to Obama.
But see,
since 1940, go ahead.
I was gonna say, isn't that an issue of these individuals? You're extrapolating.
I'm going to order with the last of my money that's available in a different account. I'm going to order a PJ before I sit and have another Lex Friedman setup conversation. When I'm literally they're trying to put me in jail for my opinion.
But I get that.
I'm not going to.
So this is actually one of the only good outcomes from this. Trust me, the bad outcomes far outweigh the good outcomes. One of the good outcomes is that this is making most people aware that Ye would not stand up to scrutiny if he was running for president. Neither would these ideas. These ideas are not palatable. They're deeply racist. They're deeply anti-Semitic. This is not a good look. And that this is obviously for someone trying to run for president or trying to gain power, it's most likely going to be incredibly difficult if barely any pushback, barely any, basically saying, can you explain more? That's basically what the pushback has been. Can you elaborate upon this idea? Because I don't agree with you that Jewish people control all the banks. So that's it. And if that alone was enough for Ye already twice to be I'm going to walk out. If you keep this up, I'm going to walk out. It's barely any pushback. I know that not only from watching it, but that's Tim Poole's words. At the end of this, he's like, I barely push back. I can play you that clip.
Have that opinion. I don't care about people. Those are bots that are trying to tell you. We realize, look at Pence. He sold Trump out. You get what I'm saying? It's I would have never wanted to do anything that hurt Trump. I'm on Trump's side. Trump said things that hurt me. He lied about me, but he's known for lying. And when people used to tell me that, he's a liar, it's I went into the trenches for Trump. That's another conversation. There was no one in my position that wore that hat. And all of my surroundings exhausted me. It was like death by 1,000 questions. I know I'm jumping to another thing.
Huge anti-Semitic trope. You just that one. I feel like that's the Nick Fuentes speaking right there, because that one is really bad. I forget how it's worded. It's the Jew cries out in pain as he stabs you by 1,000 knives or something like that. And that the whole idea, I think it's even from Mein Kampf. The whole idea being that Jewish people ultimately are playing the victim while they are oppressing and killing us, because again, it's that simultaneous all powerful powerful and also playing the victim because they're super weak and all powerful at the same time.
But what I'm saying is, I know you got a rep for
your
people online, but it's you got a person in real life that I'm not with it, bro. I lost the money for the freedom of speech, and that's what makes me the only American that we know that really deserves to run the country, because everyone else, your boy DeSantis, Trump, whoever they raise in a petri dish over on the Democrat side is going to play the game.
Look,
and,
here's what I was trying to get to. You went right into the anti-Semite thing. I think it's something that should be talked about, but if you start
yeah, again, what did you think was fucking gonna happen, Tim? What did you expect? Did you think that Nick Fuentes, the neo-Nazi, and Ye, the person now extremely famous for being one of the biggest musical artists ever, to be a massive anti-Semite, did you think they were going to come on the show and just do what you wanted? Talk about news articles you wanted to talk about? Give you the answers to all your questions? Or did you think they were going to dominate this entire thing and go on fucking massive, like, Mein Kampf was now on your show? Amazing.
Bringing this up, you're going to ask my opinion on it. I'm going to disagree with you.
I didn't ask your opinion on it. You jumped into it.
But
I don't care about your opinion. I like your opinion on how we win an election, but I don't care about anybody's opinion, bro. I lost. They tried to put me in jail. They blocked $2 billion I had. Like what I told Farrakhan, I said, look, is it anti-Semitic for me to say his name out loud? Like I told
minister.
That's like that's the faux outrage. Where it's like, oh, what are people going to call me anti-Semitic just because I've invoked the name of Farrakhan? Farrakhan, by the way, massive anti-Semite. But no, just by saying Farrakhan out loud, it's the same like just like saying Hitler out loud, things like that. Like it doesn't actually mean that what you are saying is going to be anti-Semitic. It's when you then say the anti-Semitic thing after the fact.
Yeah, the minister. Like I told
Obama met with him too.
Oh, he was. Yeah, I mean the Jewish people allowed Obama to meet with the minister. You know.
Like that, like, holy fuck. It's like this, it's wild to me that this is like fucking up on YouTube, that they made a whole bunch of money from this. Like, that's like, this is full blown fucking conspiracy theories. Like, the Jews allowed Obama to meet with Farrakhan, be it not for their permission, that never would have happened. What are you saying?
Farrakhan said, well, did he have the money? The contract for the next 4 years, if I hadn't done anything, would have been $500 million a year for 4 years. What I was fighting for was the IP, so my children could, I'm sorry, just sometimes I think about 7 thoughts at one time. Because anything I see, I come up with like 7 answers to it and then just choose what it is. But
so I saw that clip go around by a lot of people, and even right-wingers who were saying like, this is clearly, just a case of someone who has bipolar disorder or has experienced psychosis, blah, blah, blah. That's what explains what was happening. I guess trying to justify the fact that like, now actual white supremacists and neo-Nazis are straight up just meeting with the ex-presidents of the United States. But I was like, first off, bipolar disorder does not excuse racism, anti-Semitism. You don't get to blame that on being bipolar. If you are having a psychotic episode or anything like that, that could be an issue. I'm not going to armchair athlete this, but I am going to say that what does that say about fucking Fuentes, Milo, and Tim Poole then? If it's like, if your right-wing justification for any of this is that this is a person experiencing psychosis in real time, then this is a room full of people, including neo-Nazis, exploiting that for fucking money. And while they fucking promote themselves in the process. There's no justification possible.
But the thing is, when I said my children, the reason why my brain kind of blocked, because it's like God is saying, your children are going to be okay. Baby mama's got money, right? God is using me. He's breaking me down, removing all of the, richest person, all of this, so I can serve him. And the more and more those things are taken away from me, the more I can be empty and be a vessel and be able to be used. And right now, it's like, you're not going to take, if we can't, you're not going to take my pain away, right? The Jewish people say, it's the Holocaust, this happened, and you can't say anything about it. We can't take their pain away. No one.
At that moment, by the way, I was like, oh my God, is he going to go into Holocaust denial? Where are we going with this?
No one's going to denounce the fact that they tried to lock me up. That's what, because every time I'm just holding stride, and it's like, I thought.
I'm just gonna come out with a spicy take here. All right, probably get canceled for this one. I think the Holocaust was worse than you losing money. I think one of those two things was worse than the other by a very large magnitude.
I thought I was more Malcolm X, but I find out I'm more MLK, because as I'm getting hosed down every day by the press and financially, I'm just standing there. And when I found out that they tried to put me in jail, it was like a dog was biting my arm, and I almost shed a tear, almost. But I still walked in stride through it.
Referring to
I
Jewish
think
people's dogs.
they've been extremely unfair to you.
Who was they, though? We can't say who they is,
corporate
can we?
press. I'm not using I don't use the word as the way I guess you guys use. I'm talking.
It is.
Like, holy fuck, Tim. I can't believe this. Like, you were so out of your depth on this entire thing. Like, you're fucking just drowning in a sea of anti-Semitism right now. Who is they, though? They, them. Like, this is the fucking Jewish question shit. And you're just like, the corporate press? I don't see things the way all of you do. Nick Fuentes, what do you have to say about this?
Them, though, isn't it? I mean, because because when you think about it, consider it. In 2018.
What do you mean it's not?
What do I mean?
See, right there, and that's the most fucking Nick Fuentes talks in this whole thing, and yet Nick Fuentes is fucking on Jimmy Kimmel Tonight segments, is fucking top trending on Twitter, is a fucking household name now. Good job, Tim. You fucking did it. Everyone knows who Nick Fuentes is. Hopefully this doesn't increase his, I don't know, brand, viewership, any of that kind of stuff. Hopefully come another January 6th, when Nick Fuentes is out with a megaphone, there aren't even tens of thousands of people more listening to him and the things he wants, because he's laid out very distinctly what he wants. He wants a dictatorship. He wants a fucking Adolf Hitler to come to power so that he can enact the fucking final solution. That's Nick Fuentes. He's a fucking neo-Nazi. That's who he is. So great work, team, on all of this. But that's all he gets to say, and yet all that happened. And you can tell he was ready to pop off. Nick Fuentes was just like, he was just gearing up. He's like, okay, so hear me out. 2018, how many film companies, news corporations were controlled by, and like, you could just tell, he had all his fucking pseudo-factual, anti-Semitic, racist ass shit ready to spew.
Like, okay, so how about, are you leaving?
Are you referring to the press?
He's gone. I'll say it right now. You got,
So, from here on out, parts of the right have both been condemning and celebrating Tim Poole. There's one half, they're divided, right? There's a lot of people who think Tim Poole fucked up really bad, massive Tim Poole L. I mean, fuck, if we're looking at the chat right now.
you guys want to bring that stuff up? And then
Have
think
the
we're not going
discussion.
to have a
Like,
conversation?
have the discussion.
Like, you think Ye's going to come in here and say, here's my pain, here's my suffering. I'm going to say, I hear you. And then he's going to say, and it was Jewish people. And I'm going to be like, okay, but don't you consider, so I'm not going to do this. I refuse.
Make sure he's cool.
All right, go for it. Luke and I will have a conversation. So I can't say I'm surprised. What do I even do other than ask
So it's all support for Ye right now. Ye out, Ye, oh my God, he just left, that's epic.
him?
Tim
Please
blew it.
elaborate on this. Are you referring to individuals, or are you quite
Good job, Tim.
literally blaming an entire group of people for the fact that powerful individuals are causing you harm?
I really wanted to ask Nick about.
By the way, Tim, what you were describing, this is a hardcore racist ass anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. This is not like a difficult topic. This is like, can we just debate this? Can we just, in the market, I want to know, in the marketplace of ideas, why don't Jewish people control everything? Everything. Why don't they have the ears of the presidents? Why don't they control all the banks? Why don't they control all of the film and media that we consume? Why do Jewish people like fucking create everything?
About his thoughts about MLK, because I know they contradict his comments about that. But again,
Tim is a
these are
shill,
mass generalizations
baby,
that don't really help
wild
anyone in my
guy.
perspective. They
Tim's
just
a paid
kind of
actor.
sound
Tim
like
L.
their opposition. They sound what they're kind of going against the woke mob that's always saying white men
Tim
are responsible
ruined it.
for everything. When I see people just use generalizations,
Yay,
it
one.
kind of
Tim
cheapens
L.
the conversations. It cheapens
Tim fell off the
a
fence.
dialogue that we could
Tim is
have
so
here
mad.
that
Do
I
it,
was
Tim
planning
Lamau.
to talk to Ye about,
Way to
specifically
fuck up.
bringing up like, hey, let's actually talk about this in a
That's
real
what Tim
concise
does.
way.
Why didn't
Let's
you let
not get emotional.
Ye
Let's not
talk?
walk out of here. Let's actually
let me
get
tell all you
with it.
guys outright. I said, this is going to be a big issue. Before the show, obviously, people are going to bring up the questions of anti-Semitism.
What are some of these? With Sneeko, with Rumbo, with Creativity Kit. Why did black people vote for Biden after he talked to Charlemagne the God and he said two black people aren't black if we don't vote for him?
Why don't we talk about the news? I want to hear what happened with this meeting. I want to understand what Ye 24 is. And then we can do a longer conversation about any of that stuff. And Ye literally in the first 5 minutes says, no, I want to talk about a group of people and point to them. Whatever, man.
What did you think was going to happen, Tim? God damn. Fucking every single time. It's like, well, why won't we just have a conversation? I was just trying to talk to him. I mean, at the end of the day, why is everyone freaking out about this? A lot of people are really mad that apparently I did something wrong. I don't know. But, all right, so I got some clips. I picked the whole thing apart. And I've got Tim Poole a while later. I think it's around like the 2 or maybe like 1 hour and 54 mark. So people were getting mad at Tim Poole from all sides, by the way. People were mad at Tim Poole on the right because they were like, why the fuck are you hanging out with a neo-Nazi? People were obviously mad at Tim Poole on the lib and the left sides of the political aisle.
Here's the thing. I'm getting criticized because they're like, Tim, why were you letting them say those things? I'm like, I barely pushed back.
It's true. It's true. You barely push back. And you barely push back on what I can only describe is probably the most hardcore anti-Semitic 17 minutes on YouTube that's still up. Because like most places where you see this kind of shit, the channels get nuked. It's just like Holocaust denying channels and shit like that. That's where you'll see this kind of rhetoric and these kind of things said out loud. So barely push back. You would think after all this that the rhetoric would kind of turn down. You would think like the right would just take a little step and be like, holy fuck. Okay, well, those are clear neo-Nazis. That's clear super anti-Semitic tropes. We're going to separate ourselves from this discourse rather than accelerate it. Because, you know, after that shooting that happened in Colorado and where 2 trans people were killed and, you know, multiple innocent victims were slaughtered. It's absolutely horrifying by an individual. They were noted to have uttered many anti-gay slurs, the F slur especially, and their dad was one of those people who was like super happy that their kid wasn't gay. Like it didn't matter that they killed a bunch of people, but they wanted to know that they weren't gay. You would think that the right after all that would do what the cycle usually is. Thoughts and prayers. We're very, very sorry. Followed by the thoughts and prayers afterwards. It's going to be like, hey, we need to increase the amount of police on the street. We need more good guys with guns, blah, blah, blah. Story goes out of the media. And then the whole cycle repeats. Instead, what did they do? They went extra hard in pushing actual fucking anti-LGBTQ plus conspiracy theories. Like Tim Poole, the same Tim Poole, was fucking coming out and being like, well, you know, they hosted a grooming event. If you didn't want that to happen, why would you be grooming? I mean, what did you think was going to happen as long as you were grooming people, blah, blah, blah. They were just ramping it up, accelerating it, because that is the direction that they are going. If you analyze media and you analyze these pundits, look at how after these major events where they would normally take a second to be like, okay, we're not going to go in the defense right now. We're just going to take a step back and say thoughts and prayers. That's it. Now they're still going on the offense when that happens and being like, well, I mean, fuck around and find out. What do you think was going to happen? If they're grooming children, someone said they were going to grab the wood chipper. Actual fucking Tim Poole shit. So after the yay shit, what does Steven Crowder do?
And I honestly like Kanye, though, honestly, and I don't think he hates Jewish people. I really don't.
No, I don't think he hates Jewish people. I think he's been wronged, and
Yes.
I think that he's aiming sometimes a howitzer. He's being imprecise.
Right. Yes.
But he's not wrong about everything. Look, is there a conversation to be had about secular humanists with Jewish last names in Hollywood exploiting people in positions of, the performance arts talent? Yeah. And by the way, that happens in the conservative movement, too. Behind the scenes.
Yeah.
People sign contracts where they don't know what they're signing. Yeah, it's true. Is there a disproportionate number of people with Jewish last names in higher banking? That's an argument that can be made.
No, it's not. Like, I gotta pull up the chart. Don't worry, I'll crop out the fact that someone, by the way, did the conservatives have this kind of like, we have to openly support Israel in all that it does because we want to basically, as Christians, usher in the second coming of Jesus. That's what conservatives do. And they like to monolith all Jewish people as being like every single Jewish person is also Israel. Israel equals Jewish person. So that's unfortunately what the chart does, but I'll pull it out in a second.
But then when you get to it's because they're Jewish
I'll cover
and
that
all
over.
well, now we have a problem, not because it's offensive, but because it's inaccurate. So let me first set this up. Kanye West has been wronged. And I do think that this matters because it might provide some context.
And I honestly like Kanye, though, honestly, and I don't think he hates Jewish people. I really don't.
So, here we have a collection of Wall Street CEOs the heads of banks, as you can see, the overwhelming majority, Irish. Now, Stephen Crowder, I ask you, does that mean that there is an Irish conspiracy theory? Do we have to ask the Irish question? And again, I want to keep pumping this meme so people realize how fucking ridiculous the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories actually are. If you can actually explain to people, because yes, it turns out the last 2 Democratic presidents were Irish. Turns out a lot of police officers, disproportionately Irish. Looks like a lot of Wall Street CEOs are Irish. Should we ask ourselves the Irish question? Should we ask, are Irish people controlling the world? Are Irish people oppressing us? Are Irish people trying to eliminate us? Is that what's happening here? And when you lay it out like that, it's like, well, that's kind of ridiculous. That's silly. I don't think Irish people are doing that. But why? Why is it the one group that has been historically vilified for a variety of reasons and oppressed using conspiracy theories to justify that oppression or genocide? We should fucking get real with this. It's fucking, the Holocaust was genocide. Then now it's socially acceptable. That one, we're just asking questions. Stephen Crowder's just going to go on a show and say, I just want to know. A lot of bankers. Is that a fair question to ask? Maybe. Let's see. So that's fucked. Because again, it's like after the LGBTQ plus shooting, seeing them like instead of actually taking a second to have any kind of self-reflection or even respect, going way harder, like just hitting the gas on like, hey, by the way, LGBTQ plus people are pedophiles and groomers. I'm gonna keep talking about it. The same thing seeing this after Ye, the anti-Semitism, Nick Fuentes, the Trump dinner, Stephen Crowder fucking ramping up the fucking JQ question. Like incredible. Other corners of the internet, the red fash. Tim Poole is a leftist. Ye professes he's on the mission from God, and this schmuck who supposedly hates identitarianism can't help but woke scold about anti-Semitism. The left and right are the same thing. Lamau. Tinkle Jackson. Top names that come to mind are, who are the top 5 most canceled people? Julian Assange, Lyndon LaRouche, the anti-Semite, Alex Jones, the anti-Semite, Nick Fuentes, the neo-Nazi, and Kanye West, the anti-Semite. Watch, Space LaRouche. There's a cultural revolution happening. Within the MAGA movement, Trump was Stalin, Ye is Mao. Hell yeah. It makes no sense. I'm so happy. I can't play this without covering his face. Hold on one sec.
But the Kanye West slander, I won't tolerate it. I won't. Tim Poole L. I'll say it. It was an L.
Again, Tim Poole did the bare fucking minimum. The bare minimum. As in, I don't agree with the anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, aka the Jewish question, putting they in brackets. The bare minimum of human decency. That's all he did. And then Hinkle's like, oh, fucking Ye slander. Tim Poole L. Tim Poole L. So, sweet. Throwing your hat in with the anti-Semitism. Awesome. Have fun. Apparently, Amazing Atheist is having a hell of a time.
Sometimes in life, you gotta
get rid
ask
of the beanie.
yourself,
Give me a second.
why am I here? What is this all about? Is this even worth it? Is life worth all the struggle, the turmoil, the strife? But then, occasionally, not often, but occasionally, something happens. And it makes you realize, yes, the struggle is worth it. It's worth it for moments like these. Can you feel it? Breathe it in. Breathe it in, folks.
So, for the record, Amazing Atheist obviously is one of the old edgelords of the internet. If you are around the early YouTube days, one of the bigger names that you would have found if you were Googling for feeling like an edgy boy who wanted to, hate on the religious sect. The unfortunate part about the Amazing Atheist is that he also started overlapping with a lot of racism, including 1350 shit, and went down that rabbit hole. So that was kind of a pipeline between Amazing Atheist and going down into like, this is leading in really bad, negative alt-right directions. So that was kind of shitty. The good thing is that the Amazing Atheist, as of the last couple of years, has gone on a massive reversal on his channel to the detriment of the channel, which often happens when you have a very large right-wing audience, and then you decide, hey, by the way, I don't want to be a transphobe, to being a massive, like, I want to go after all of the ghouls, as is my current goal. TJ is the reason I became an atheist at 14. See, for me, it was the Four Horsemen. I was reading Dennett, Hitchens, Harris, and Dawkins. I got them all. There you are. Who unfortunately three of the four turned out to be Islamophobes. So
I want you to really appreciate this moment.
And anti-feminist stuff as well, yeah.
Because
like basically that section of the internet that was like, I hate feminism, I hate third wave feminism, I hate people aren't being honest about black crime statistics, that kind of shit. And then you saw that massive 180, which is good to see, by the way. I want to see more massive channels call their old shit out. Like he's been doing that thing where he rewatches his 1350 videos and makes fun of himself, where he's like, oh yeah, that was really racist. Oh yeah, that was really fucked up. Oh yeah, that was terrible.
This is the moment where Tim Poole's audience of disgusting, reprobate, Nazi scumbag, loser assholes have turned on him all because he was not sufficiently capitulatory to the anti-Semitism of Kanye West on his Timcast IRL podcast. Literally the entire comment section is nothing but seething hatred for Tim Poole and admonitions of Tim Poole and disgust with Tim Poole and love for Kanye and strong vows of support for Kanye's anti-Semitism. And I love this because, hey, Tim, this is the audience you cultivated, buddy. This is what your grift was all about. You know, all those views that you brag about having, every single one of them, worthless. You know why? Because they're not people of value. They're disgusting, anti-Semitic, Nazi losers. And now they hate your guts. Oops. Check it out, bro.
God is using me. He's breaking me down.
Oh, yeah, he's breaking you down, Kanye. That's true. God really does seem like he's breaking you on down.
Removing all of the, richest person, all of this, so I can serve him. And the more...
Oh, wait, is it God doing that, or is it the Jews doing that? It's a little bit of a shaky narrative here. I guess the Jews are God's chosen people, so God is using the Jews to deprive you of all your money and everything so that you can be broken down, so that you can be rebuilt.
Amazing Atheist is cool now. He's basically like super anti-capitalist, pro-trans rights, calling out his old racism kind of shit. I mean, I'm sure there's still a lot of edge. There's always going to be edge to the edgy edgelords of the internet. You don't lose the edge, you know that.
As a great prophet or something, right? Yes, that seems to be what's going on. Either that or you're an idiot who's made a lot of really imbecilic statements that cost you a lot of money.
The lepers that I let out of the cage ate my face. Like yesterday, Tim Poole just got eaten alive by the Groiper chat that were just fucking losing their minds over this shit.
And
oh yeah, I didn't see the comments. Imagine being Ye and explaining to someone how you just lost $2 billion net worth, hundreds of millions in cash are frozen. There's an effort to put you in jail, all by Jewish people simply because you said Jews have power. And Tim Poole cuts you off and says, "Nah, I don't see this Jewish power thing. They're all individuals. Why do Ari Emanuel and Jonathan Greenblatt even have the ability to take away someone's entire net worth and life savings?" Wow. Just like hardcore anti-Semitic Jewish conspiracies.
Attacked by like all Jews as a cabal. There are maybe some individuals who might happen to be Jewish that are doing things against you. Maybe. I don't even think that's provable, but like they're doing things against you because you explicitly are saying racist things in public against their race. But, because that's happening to you, because you have suffered the financial repercussions of your own actions, this is proof that your anti-Semitism is correct. I mean, isn't this a wonderful little thing that the anti-Semitic idiots have cooked up where, a person goes out, speaks vile, disgusting slander against Jews, and then loses money because of it, and then they say, look, see, if you question the Jews, you lose.
So true. That's the logic of the whole thing. It's like you go out, you say a whole bunch of super racist shit, you lose everything, and then it's like, that justifies the racism. Justifies all of it because, again, the Jews control everything. So because they control everything, they're taking everything from me. And is it wrong? Is it cancel culture to point this out?
Money. Well, that would happen if you did that about any group in America. If you went out and said these things about black people, you would lose money, especially if you had lucrative deals.
I'm going to disagree with you there. There's more tolerable racism in that direction. Like, Ye was saying very racist things about black people. He was saying that, black people, slavery, they were responsible for slavery and stuff like that, which is just like, it's wild that, that stuff was being said out loud and tolerated for so long by a number of people. I don't know if they justified it because they were like, well, he's black and he's one of the few black people that have achieved a lot of power and wealth in America, so can I really criticize him saying super racist things? He even said he was like an admirer of Hitler. Like he was like, yeah, no, like I admire him. And I was like, that's wild. That's a terrible thing to. Yeah, slavery was a choice. Thank you. Slavery was a choice. That's what it was. Thank you.
There's no way you're gonna keep.
Like, that's fucked. That's an obscenely racist thing to say. Like, chattel slavery was a horrifying fucking part of human history, and one that we should be deeply and thoroughly ashamed of.
Lucrative clothing deals.
And I say we because we're all a humanity, by the way. We're all humans. So yes, collectively that's the thing to be ashamed of. But I don't think black people chose that. That's a wild thing.
And things of that nature. If you're out there speaking these kind of disgusting things about black people or Asian people or any group of people. So the idea that this is some obvious proof of like a Jewish cabal work
400 years, more like 500 years, they're still going. Yeah, I mean, like, hey, we can all agree that slavery was fucking terrible. By the way, thanks to the 13th Amendment, we have the system in America where it seems like there's both a disproportionate amount of black people who are ending up in prison, as well as the fact that those prisoners can be paid nothing, virtually nothing, pennies on the dollar for forced labor. So that's something else that we're doing, aka, yes, we're forcing prisoners to do forced labor. By the way, Canada, we do that too. I looked it up because it's one of those things where it's always like, well, all the well-to-do white liberals of Canada are like, well, at least I'm so thankful I live in a more equitable society, one in which I can say that racism has been eliminated thanks to Canada. And then it's like, we're doing that too. We also have prisoners that, here's the difference. Disproportionately, it's Indigenous people. So we disproportionately incarcerate Indigenous people, but then we do the same thing. We do the thing where we pay them very, very little amount of money for them to work. Pretty close to slavery. We can justify saying that it's not slavery because it's like there's a little amount. It's a small amount. It's not enough to like live, but hey, we're providing housing and food for them. So should we, like, maybe that's it. I'll justify it by saying it comes out of their housing. It's like their rent. Okay, so I'm going to garnish your wages excessively to the point of paying you practically nothing for your labor. But it's because, again, I'm providing you with housing and food of very low quality. But you do get both.
Working against Kanye is absurd. And, these people know it's absurd. They don't care. This to them is just about pushing anti-Semitic rhetoric. Tim blew the biggest interview in podcast history. Yes, Tim blew it by not just capitulating to Kanye. It's not Kanye's fault for storming out of the interview the moment he's disagreed with. Kanye straight up said he's not going to sit there and listen while you lecture about how the Jewish conspiracy isn't real.
Okay, so that last one had 1.3k likes. This one has 126. This is the full-on, like, this was the shit that used to be called out on the early days of the internet. Well, not the early days, but maybe let's say the last Gamergate era. This was like the alt-right. It was like, we're going to be full-on racists, kind of like a mix of neo-Nazis, reactionaries, that kind of stuff. But we're going to brand ourselves. We're not the right. We're the alternative to the right. So say it's Richard Spencer, the white supremacist. And so then we're going to go onto the internet and we're just going to make a lot of jokes. We're going to make jokes, make edgy jokes, and then start to fucking JQ question pill people, as in get people to suddenly laugh up until the point where they start to question these kind of things. That'll be our tactic. We're going to be very ironic. We're going to use lots of pepes and memes. We're going to do all this kind of shit, but we still have a goal, and that goal is very well documented. And that is, of course, we want more people to wake up to the fact that there is a Jewish conspiracy. How many film studios are owned by Jewish people? How many banks are owned by Jewish people? How many presidents have been spoken to by Jewish or controlled by Jewish people? That old anti-Semitic trope, the puppet master, that kind of shit. That was the alt-right. And now this shit is becoming so sanitized, so mainstream. It's just like people are just open and proud. Like, it's not controversial to point out that Jewish people control the world. That's not controversial, okay? Like, the right has gone so far down that path. It's hard to even begin to have nuance for like the strange, let's just say old school right winger anti-Semitism of saying all Jewish people are Israel. I, as a white person, think that every Jewish person is also Israeli. That's what I think as a white person, and must agree with everything that Israel does, because as a Christian, I want Jesus to return. Like, that's a different form of it. But like, now they're just straight up into the fucking Alex Jones tier stuff. Like, just all the way to the right. Like, fucking hell. When again, it's the Irish. It's the Irish that control everything.
He told you he would walk out if that's where it went, and you immediately took it there and were dumbfounded. He walked out. Not saying walking out was mature, but don't pretend you didn't know it was going to happen. He literally said it 5 minutes prior. So what is the idea here? The idea here is that you you know, and then the audience sees, hey, wait, Tim's not one of us. He's not really one of us. And they all just slap on the jetpacks and just hit eject and leave the show. Now, granted, plenty of these people will be back to listen to more of Tim Poole's nonsense. I mean, an audience.
Oh, by the way, Tim Poole has basically a rotating cast right now of white supremacists. Let me pull up the documents. I got the data, the facts and the figures. I don't care about the feels over the reels. All right, here we are. Tim Poole's show is just a rotating cast of white supremacists and neo-Nazis. We got John Doyle, avowed Christian fucking fascist. Not Christian nationalist, which is already pretty fucking yikesy. Like, you know, that one brings up the sketchometer. But Christian fascist has said it on fucking Milo Yiannopoulos. This was the previous Milo Yiannopoulos, return, I would say. This is probably the biggest boost that Milo has had since his whole sodomy stone. Darren Beattie. Darren Beattie might not be a name that a lot of you remember, but Darren Beattie was one of the people that was actually found to be not only deeply intertwined within the Trump administration, but also having attended some very yikesy, let's just say, far-right white supremacist style conventions. Let's put it there as lightly as we can. These are, by the way, like almost one after another. It's just like boom, 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 boom. So great job, Tim. You just have a rotating cast of white nationalists. But that wasn't enough. Then he had to go for a fucking neo-Nazi. It's a neo-Nazi. Like, god damn. It doesn't get worse. Like I said, that's as you have gone to the extremes. And now this person is fucking being promoted. Nick didn't have to do shit, by the way. He didn't have to say anything. He barely spoke. He wanted to fucking suddenly, like, you know, no longer have to hide his power levels and just start going off about how, like, oh, well, let's look at the facts. Let me tell you about the Jews. But that was enough. That was enough for now. This fucking neo-Nazi is popping up thanks to the Trump dinner, thanks to this appearance in fucking Jimmy Kimmel specials. By the way, I get this weird criticism from people. Like I responded when Tim Poole originally did this, and was like, I was like, hey, was David Duke not available to Tim? And then a whole bunch of replies were like, fucking jealous, Serfs is jealous, oh, Lance is jealous, all this stuff. I was like, no, I never want to be that famous. I never want to be on late night talk shows. That sounds horrifying to me. I don't want to be a fucking 20,000 viewer Andy kind of shit. It's too much. It's just like too much shit happening all at once. Just like wrapping my head around the fact that would be like that many people. That's not my goal. I like it's not the thing I'm looking for. I don't think that we should be giving neo-Nazis bigger and bigger megaphones. Like, you know, in that Simpsons episode where like Bart stacks all the megaphones until he gets the length at which when he says something into it, it fucking starts destroying the city. That's think of it as a metaphor for what is happening right now. Because Nick Fuentes is one of the January 6th guys. He's one of the dudes who's like in front with the megaphone. He wasn't inside the building, but he's outside fucking, we are a Christian nation. We have to return to the values of the Bible, blah, 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 all that shit, and getting all these fucking alt-righters, groypers, racists, neo-Nazis, KKK members, QAnoners, 3%ers, Proud Boys, right-wing militias, all of them like, whoa, big mad, gotta kill Pence. It's the only way. Like, yeah. So now Nick Fuentes is not going to be having a little crowd of like 100 groypers, 200 groypers. There could be thousands. Could be thousands of groypers who pay attention to this fucking no-fap, booger-eating cum hunter. That's what he is. He goes through fucking bed sheets trying to find cum. It's really fucking weird. He's got a lot of hang-ups. I don't think he should be pushing these hang-ups onto the rest of us. That kind of fucking sucks. And by the way, Tim, stop platforming neo-Nazis. I don't think that's a hard ask. I think that's kind of like one of those below bare minimum things. Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Juste, we shall spend many a generations building mighty cathedrals in your honor. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your oafish jesters, here to offer you a laugh at any opportunity. To our brave knights of the Round Table, Rachel K., Izzy Solidarity, Victoria Bell, Sebastian Demel, Mark Harmon, Benji Arney, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood, Everything Important, Hegbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Doug Cady, Daniel Sutton, Jenna Tao, Dark Puppy, Quiet One 85, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, Multimondi, Trevbot EXE, Brian Ephraim, Anthropophojak, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Ralph Parler, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Todd Buckingham, and Todd La Jeunesse. We salute our valiant heroes off to fight injustice everywhere.